right, thank you so much. It's really nice to be back. I took last week off, and if social media is any indication, Michael, I missed a heck of a day. But
yeah,
if I don't know if you just saw, but only moments before this broadcast, there appears to be some civil war going on. Troy Canadian Jarzlowski mentioned that he's now coming out of retirement, and there were some choice words being exchanged between himself and former teammates on space station. So it seems like we can't go a week without these kind of fireworks. But that's just fireworks on social media.
Canada Civil War.
We've got Soniqs versus Oxygen, Michael. This is the 5th place and 6th place teams coming to fight each other. And while they might share some of the same color palette to a certain extent, what are you expecting in the server?
I mean, I share a lot of the sentiment that was expressed on the analyst desk, to be honest. What we've been seeing from Oxygen this stage has not been fantastic. But, I mean, what do you guys think? What does the viewership think? We've got a community question for you. Go ahead and vote on this one if you want to. Between these two entities, which do you think will get the most opening kills for their teams? I said entities. I meant entries. It's Oxygen's Vertical and Soniqs Rexon in a head-to-head. So you can go ahead and give your opinion on that one. That'll be how we figure out which team you're in the more of the corner of for this matchup. Again, Parker, like I said, I'm kind of with the analyst desk here. I've been seeing a better Soniqs as of late and a worse Oxygen. Now, there's definitely a chance that Oxygen is going to change gears here, and this will be a better match for them. But going into it, it looks good for Soniqs.
I mean, what I will say is this. Entity, Michael, absolutely correct. They're all entities.
They technically are.
Technically, you are not wrong on that one.
Technically correct.
If you divorce yourself from the fact that last stage / last split, Oxygen was the #1 team. The Soniqs competed with them, obviously. They were all in the running. They were very, very good at doing what they needed to do, but obviously this second split has been entirely different. TSM and SSG have been dominating most teams, and they look like they're in fine form. And even though I said at the start of this show that these are the teams in 5th place who are the Soniqs on your screen right now, and Oxygen are in 6th place, the stats wouldn't say that. If you look just solely based upon the ratings of the players who are in the game, all 5 of the Soniqs members are at either a 1.0 rating or above. For Oxygen, there's only one player that's above a 1.0. That's Laxing at 1.04, who barely skates in, and then the rest of the team is below that. So I agree with you, and I think the consensus is that on paper, the Soniqs are going to be the better team, but we're on Chalet, we're banning the operators. We're only a couple minutes away from being able to test our theory, and while it's a Thatcher and Maverick ban to start things off on Chalet, this is what we come to expect.
Yeah, so always the Thatcher ban. Obviously, I don't need to explain that for anyone who's watched TT Sports before. If you haven't, Thatcher, basically a solve-all salve for any kind of utility the defenders will be putting out there, and getting rid of him is great. Maverick plays a similar role to Thatcher, though more direct in his effect, and getting rid of him is going to make it so you have to either bring a Kali or play vertical to get things off of walls to then open those reinforced walls. Cade going to be banned out, or Kaid, excuse me, will be banned out because when you got a Maverick and a Thatcher ban, you need to get rid of those electric claws. Finding batteries from Bandit and mute jammers from mute are not a big deal, but finding those electric claws, they could be difficult without these 2 attacking ops. Mira, standards fair. Nothing too crazy going on there. One thing to note, Valkyrie is in play. We'll wonder if we'll see any of her today.
And an often banned operator, but yeah, I think Mira and Kaid will make for an interesting set of operator bans. Another operator that does tend to see a wealth of picks on defense, depending on the site they're going on to, is Frost. You can see it right away. Kansan will be running that operator. There were a series of developer notes that came out today, Michael. I'm sure you saw them. I saw that you retweeted them. A lot of people have interacted with them, basically explaining some changes that the devs want to have to a variety of ops in the game. Frost is scheduled to lose her 1.5 times scope, go back to just her single 1 time scope instead. Don't know exactly what that will do in terms of her fragging potential at a top level, as that change seems to at least be geared towards the players competing in ranked and in more casual play.
I mean, I was thinking about this one earlier, actually, Parker, and I think that Frost just needed that little bit of a nudge into being a relevant operator, personally. The 1.5 was just the cherry on top, but now that players know how good her gun is, I'm fairly certain that many will be able to make it work without the 1.5. So it's not I don't think that's too big of a hit. But anyway, that's just, you know, we're getting sidetracked here. What we're seeing in the setup here is a very heavy downstairs presence from the Soniqs. This is on a top floor master defense. We still got 3 defenders trying to hold out downstairs. This is interesting.
Expect to see a lot of Flores here in terms of soft destruction. Ash's pick rate has absolutely cratered after they changed around her R4C kit and took away a piece of her utility as well. Nice catch from Super there onto a drone, playing on trophy stairs now as we've eclipsed 45 seconds. He's got a nitro cell that's primed and ready and will hit its target, cutting vertical down on the windows. Another lined up for Super 2, but he doesn't know who all out is out there. Sitting on a nest of ADSs, so they'll be able to catch any of the projectiles or throwables thrown his way, as it's Kino, the one in a damaging spot, but nice shot on Nikanzen to remove the Frost, who will now be on Cam's duty for the rest of the round. Fox A will fall, so the Soniqs at least answer back, as that was a solo and isolated entry from Fox down in Trench. Yeti's bottom floor roam working out effectively. Laxing might be able to avenge his teammate, but he's got some work to do.
Definitely a lot to shoot through here still. Those ADSs you talked about, Parker, but Super swings with the shotgun and misses his opportunity. Kino will get the entry. Rock in a hard place, though. He's got a challenge below and above. Below is Rexon, and he's able to take that fight. Laxing now alone with 1 minute and 20 seconds left. This has been a very fast round for both of these teams. Oxygen trying for the Solarium take. It hasn't worked out, obviously. The only one able to get any kills so far for Oxygen, Kino. Laxing's going to have to find 3 to take this round. He's got 1 minute to do so, and Yeti on low HP. So, it's not a huge deal. He'll rotate far to try and get a safer position with some ground to work with. Hitting a Legion Trap and shooting the cams on his way. His position is well known, and he'll be swung on by Grixer. Damage done, but no kill. Here's the footsteps to his right, and another kill for Laxing. Now suddenly we're in a 1 versus 1. Rexon, though, full HP. That's going to be a major factor in the coming gunfight. It's going to have to be a headshot for Laxing to pick this one up.
Oh, I mean, this is the spot that you want to find yourself in if you're Laxing, and this is what he's known for. You never count him out, even if he is stacked against the odds. And, well, the odds are definitely against him. Rexon has been by far and away the hottest player statistically for the Soniqs so far, and he's got his work cut out for him, but he nails a shot that we come to expect, and Laxing's hope at a 1v3 comeback is denied, with the only real bit of action actually occurring on the site was the very last kill, and the Soniqs pick up the first round after building themselves quite a lead.
Great pick there for a lot of players. We got Kino with the lead off on the Solarium Repel. One of the weirdest things about that round for me is the attack from Oxygen overall. That was a Solarium execution with very little Solarium pressure. I mean, it was mostly just Kino. Kind of odd. They also failed to take, Oxygen failed to take Trophy, which is integral to any Solarium execution. So you don't have to deal with vertical, and in fact can use vertical to your advantage. Also kind of odd. So great lockout there from the Soniqs. You know, even at the end there, despite it coming down to a 1v versus 1, the strategy from the Soniqs was solid, even though they started kind of peaking unnecessarily towards the end. I will say, and I do want to highlight that, I'm trying not to fixate too much on the negatives here, but those two players trying to peak Laxing at the end, that's big risks. And if Laxing had landed the headshot, he came pretty close. If he landed the headshot on that final player at the end, then he would have won that round. He had the chance. He just missed. So you can't bet on that. That's very dangerous. Apart from that, though, I like the setup from the Soniqs. I like the vertical play they employed. Worked out well.
One of the biggest issues that Oxygen has had as a team, and this has been a consistent trend of theirs, is that they like to do things mostly on their own, and they have the skills on the roster to pull that one off. I'm sure Laxing, if he does listen to us, unmuted, as hopefully 1 or 2 pros actually do. I'm sure he's probably tired of hearing how often we talk about him being on his own, but the fact of the matter is that OXG plays that way. It's not uncommon for Fox A, it's not uncommon for Laxing, it's not uncommon for Vertical to be on their own, operating solo and independent of their teammates, and maybe they're getting droned in on the other side of the map, but not having an ability to refrag or not being able to play off of utility next to each other is particularly impressive for how OXG does it. Now, the start of this game has not been particularly impressive because once again, we find ourselves with 45 seconds burned off the clock and there's a casualty. It's a member of Oxygen yet again, and another will join it as Yeti picks up his second kill. Both Yaga and Vertical have been taken out of action. They spot another one in Library with Yeti on a sliver of HP trying to contend. Rexon on Rook as he falls back, and finally the last remaining shred of hope for Yeti to survive is punished by Laxing.
Now with that entry into Library, that control is going to be good for Oxygen, but as you mentioned, Parker, it costs way too much here. Oxygen are down 2 bodies, and we've only got Yeti as a casualty on the side of the Sonics. Plenty of time, though. Very fast round for Oxygen. As per usual, they're going quick, using one of those Flores drones to open up a rotate into box. They give good entry into office, and they can launch their attack vertically over this site. They don't have their sledge anymore, though, so that's going to hamper them quite a lot. In fact, they're not going to have any real way to open up above. So, besides, I guess, Flores drones, but yeah, not ideal for Oxygen. But they could still make something happen with the holes that might already exist.
Fox, a paranoid of where those black eye cams from Valkyrie could be. As you can see, Grixer is sitting on one right now, as is Yeti, as the changes to the overlay allow us to see who's in what particular position. Kino was accurate on a shot that he made in the previous round. We'll see if he can do it yet again. He's coming tantalizing and close to being able to take out one of the members of the Sonics, but can't quite capitalize, with Fox not too far off, surveying the bathroom to see if someone will push him from that angle. He's going to be essentially boxing shadows, though, because there's nobody around. So OXG have control of the top floor, as they would expect, and now they're going to have to translate that to the floor below. There's a preset C4 as Kino looks from above in that angle that's been created both through the wall and through the floor. Another Rotero drone is going to come out from Fox to try and do some more soft destruction. Those drones being done to chip away at the wood paneling and the flooring. Kino doesn't know exactly where to go. Rexon on a tiny bit of HP, hugging the bomb chassis for dear life. He's waiting patiently. The rest of his team to back him up, and the Sonics have a numbers advantage in a 4v3. Final 20 seconds, Super lies below. He'll need to get back to the site. OXG are in dangerous territory right now. They're going to have to push in with the clock working against them, but they find the first pick on the entry, onto Kansan. Even. Grixer takes one down. Back to an advantage for the Sonics. He repeaks, not ideal. So will Super. Fox from above, punishing. It's a 2v1 technically, and right on 0 they get the diffuser down, but it's going to be Rexon to try and stop this, with Fox watching. Does he know where the Rook is? That's the real question. No, he doesn't. Rexon pops on up and takes down Laxing before the diffuser can go. 2-0 Sonics.
Now, why were we on the Rook there? Interesting. I'm not sure where exactly he came from, because I did get to see the outline of the last player on defense who clutched it up in the 1v2. Well done stopping that diffuse plant on the 000. Sonics 2 rounds in a row. Both of these rounds have been dangerously close, but a win is a win. And we were just in the pre-show talking about how important the rounds can be when you're playing in a best of one. I think it was Laxing who was talking about that. Well, he's right, and here we are in this 2-0 currently. Now, these teams have proven to be just as close to each other as many suspected, but still the slight advantage leaning the way of the Sonics. So that round, a lot of things went wrong for Oxygen. Number 1, no real hard breach was used to open up the main lobby wall into dining. They had to use a can opener from 0, which is not ideal. That's a very small rotate. It worked out in the end, but it also costs Oxygen a body on the initial entry. That's, that could be solved by some other hard destruction opening up that wall. Thing number 2, obviously, those 2 casualties by Library side, most notably the sledge. That means that the vertical control that you've managed to get costs more time to actually use, because you have to use the drones instead of a hammer, and is more expensive because you have to use the drones instead of a hammer. All around, just a lot going wrong early in that round for Oxygen.
Been really impressed with the Sonics and how they came back after that very first loss that they had. Obviously, for both of these teams, there's a lot on their shoulders here, and Sonics, in many ways, have still had to, I think, escape the stigma that came with that old E-United roster. For most people, I think it's fair to say that they've moved past that and are now that one small change, just putting Super, as much as a good portion of the community regard him as a villain and oftentimes as a much maligned member of the Sonics, he's clearly worked wonders along with Joe to turn this team around. As for OXG, well, I mean, this hasn't been the stage that they've wanted so far. The split hasn't gone anywhere near as effective, with right now a record of 1 win in regulation, 1 win in overtime, and 2 losses. And they've got some ground to make up, and with how competitive the top of the NAL is right now, they're unfortunately finding themselves in a bad spot. Additionally, Chalet is still, as far as my stats show, an attacker-sided map. That does not bode well for Oxygen to forfeit the very first 2 attacking rounds.
Well, slow going here on the entry compared to other rounds. As we've hit the halfway mark and there's yet no casualties. Down goes the shield, though. At the top of back stairs, Kansan forced back, so he'll in a less advantaged position. So he's got to protect Yeti, though, at the same time. You can't abandon the staircase. Yeti needs an assist to hold his position at Chimney. He's doing his best, despite having just been droned out. This is all to, hold the push from the office side and prevent control of library above this site in bar. And so far, the Soniqs have done a great job of just wasting away Oxygen's time. So they're accomplishing their mission. And this time, again, it's not costing them any bodies.
The one good news for Oxygen is that they haven't lost somebody early on. Vertical died within the first 45 seconds of the first 2 rounds. He's still around. And not only do you have him, but you also have all the utility he brings. OXG, though, this round, breaking the trend. They get the first opening duel in their favor. The Lion maybe being the pivot, the change that they needed. Taking down Yeti, who's been so reliable so far for the Soniqs. But you've got 4 more targets to find. Vertical's trying his best to take out the Frost, but loses the fight to Rexon, who immediately drops, looks back at the hatch as the Soniqs will now scramble to try and defend this first floor bomb site. Foxay is there, though, ready and waiting. He's in the middle of bar. He's lined up for a second, but he gets out-dueled yet again by the Frost. Rexon holding this down, looking for a third. He gets the drop on the Foxay. It's Yaga and Kino now in a 2v3, but a 2v2 as Rexon has also been subdued. Yaga finishes him off. He'll have to watch as Kino's going for the plant. Kansan stops him. Diffuser will need to be picked up, but Kansan says no! 3-0 for the Soniqs.
Great reaction there from Kansan, denying the defuse plant yet again. That is a lot of objective focus there for Oxygen, and a lot of objective denial for Soniqs over these first 3 rounds. It's honestly been impressive how fixated on the objective Oxygen has been, but at the same time, they're just losing too many bodies and too much time in that effort. You talked about how the attackers didn't lose any bodies early in the round, and that's true. Compared to the first 2 rounds where Oxygen was losing way too much at the beginning, it's good, but they sacrificed their time as a result, and the end result at the very, butt end of the round is the same either way. Oxygen's trying to plant. They can't get it down. There's not enough time. A body is dedicated to it. They don't have enough manpower to cover. Soniqs managed to deny, and hence the 3-0. It's curious, Parker, because now we've seen 2 different ways to address this problem from Oxygen. We've seen them take the slow, methodical route, and we've seen them do the quick execution route. Neither working. What do you do at this point?
Frankly, I don't really know at this point. I mean, the Lion obviously was a deliberate change. They got off of the Flores. The Flores drones, Rotero drones that were only being rolled out were being used for vertical destruction. I don't necessarily think that he, as an operator, was proving to be as useful for Oxygen as they needed. And in many ways, losing vertical early on that sledge in the first 2 rounds forced Flores into that role where they had to use the drones for the same reason that they would use a sledge, which is to take away that vertical play. I like the Lion, and I think it works to OXG's overall play style. They're able to just take up space very quickly, they can entry quickly, they can coordinate well, and they all have impeccable aim. Lion is an operator that makes all of that significantly easier to do. But right now, I am not really seeing too much from Oxygen that gives me any confidence over the Soniqs. The Soniqs are holding map control well, they're playing off of each other well, and they are also hitting their shots as well as OXG usually does.
I mean, I remember Jesse was critiquing Oxygen, but I think he was critiquing their defense, not their offense, and yet here we are. 3-0 for Soniqs on defense. Vertical, though, good start to this round. It's answered directly by Grixer. Looks like that might have been upstairs. Either way, a 1-for-1. Definitely favoring the Soniqs. Getting rid of the Legion is not too crippling for your defense, whereas Zofia could play a huge role, at least until they nerf her again. We'll see. Nade from below, vertical with his namesake. The nade perfectly timed and landed, and down goes Rexon. Again, though, the answer is immediate for the Soniqs, as Kansan will get one for himself.
Well, Vertical got the entry pick for OXG on this round. He's been involved in the 4 rounds played so far 3 times, 2 deaths, 1 win for him, and 1 kill, and that obviously bodes well for his team, but the utility that's being forfeited now, losing both your Thermite and your Zofia, is particularly damning. Remaining members of Soniqs with just over a minute left in this 4th round, looking to try and keep their streak alive as they haven't lost a single round yet in this matchup. Well, they're doing some soft destruction work, creating lines of sight for OXG to contend with, and with OXG having less soft destruction and only one bit of the hard breach tool, which is Laxing having access to it, this could get particularly messy for them. Drone spotted now by Grixer, as this is where the rubber is going to meet the road. 45 seconds left, and Grixer will back away from the piano to hold off on that bathroom alcove. The thing for the Soniqs is that this is an upstairs hold for them, so OXG will need to break in. Their focus right now is on office. That's the A-bomb site, and that's where they're going to have to push in. There's that half wall for them to play safely behind if they can get there, but they'll have to get there first. That's the real question. Will they? A Lion charge will go off, hoping to aid their entry point. This is a shot that can very much make. He does some damage to Foxay in the ensuing fight. Laxing picking away, but Michael, there's only 15 seconds left. That's it. Foxay getting the diffuser down. Somebody from the Soniqs will have to stop him. Nitrocell goes off. It doesn't connect. Vertical watching this angle loses the fight to Grixer. Diffuser goes down. Grixer sees him, but he can't connect the shots. Foxay drops Kansan. It's a 2v2. Super's the last one alive in a 1v2, but he loses it. Huge round from Foxay, and Oxygen finally take a round.
Massive win for Oxygen. They barely got that one. Frankly, a couple major mistakes being made there from the Soniqs. Most notably, the C4s. What's happening with your denial where it's coming short of half wall? You know where they're going to be planting. And it wasn't even behind half. It was further back, I think, by the breach. But either way, that actually makes it more exposed. That means you have more opportunities to deny the plant from further afield as a defender. Unfortunately, didn't work out that way for the Soniqs. They couldn't stop the plant for the first time, and it made all the difference for Oxygen. We have a similar Oxygen round. They're slow, they're methodical, there's early casualties. They're going for the objective, but this time, finally it works for Oxygen. And you know what else could work for you as a player? The Oxygen skin. You can check it out in the esports section of the Siege store. Let's go ahead and launch up your game and find esports. It's really easy to navigate to. And the sales will directly support Oxygen. So if you like the team, if you're happy they got their one round, go ahead and buy their skin.
Soniqs have a skin too, by the way.
They do, yeah.
Not that I want to take it away from OXG, but...
Well, they do have 3 rounds, Parker.
5 seconds to insertion.
But only one skin.
Right. Which is more deserving of your patronage? You decide.
I don't know. I'm not selling out to the man. But seriously, there's a whole host. The R6 share skins actually just came out a couple weeks back, another wave of it. So if you are a supporter of some of these teams, whether it be Oxygen or the Soniqs, feel free to go on over. There's also the 6 major castle skin as well that was announced not too long ago.
Yeah, I like that one.
I know it's not an elite skin, and I know that some people, especially Veli, have been banging the drums of an elite castle skin for quite some time. Unfortunately, it's not an elite skin.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we do have some castle skins that are like borderline elites. There's that one where he's got the leather jacket, right? I think it's a leather jacket.
I think that was a battle pass skin.
Yeah, and like there's some really cool castle skins, even though they're not full elites. Anyway, I digress.
Not to drag ourselves too off topic here, but it's there is a bit of downtime. I suppose uncharacteristic for how the first couple rounds of this matchup started, with the Soniqs setting a very brisk pace, getting the opening picks within the first 45 seconds of rounds 1 and 2. Since then, things have ground to I don't want to say a halt, but have certainly become a bit more methodical. OXG changing up the way that they entry, supporting each other well, and obviously the Lion pick instead of Flores has been played through 2 rounds. The first attempt was close, the second one netted a win for the Oxygen team, so got to be happy with that one.
Yeah, and a win's a win. Oxygen now vying for their next. They're going to have to take top control. This time, their sledge hasn't died, Parker. Oh boy! They can play the vertical with vertical if they get the control. And they're still trying to establish that full, firm control upstairs. They have still a minute to work with, so it's not the slowest round we've seen from Oxygen. But as Rexon gets the lead off, things do not look ideal here for the attackers. We're finally making their push towards Solarium, and the defenders will just leave.
And the pings, unfortunately, for the Oxygen fans are no longer accurate, so they'll go to work upstairs. They know they have to translate this to the first floor. It's a kitchen defense. 40 seconds remain in this round. The Soniqs with the upper hand, taking out Kino earlier on. It's not been a very good game for Kino thus far, and Well, at least you've got that backup hard destruction in Laxing's hands. That's Zero equipped with the hard breach tool. Fox A had quarterbacked the attack on a previous round by playing from above, and, well, if he gets lucky here, he could potentially see somebody, and he does indeed, but will he be able to shoot the possible Achilles heel of Rexon? Kansan drops to Laxing, and Rexon now falls off. They know where they're coming from. 3 members of the Soniqs all in the same area, and they're boxed in. Nice shooting from Rexon. Down goes Yaga. Laxing falls as well. Foxay still upright. He's going to make Yeti pay. Vertical now up top. As Foxay drops, 1 second left. Diffuser surrendered miles away, so unless they can kill more, well, they can't. Oxygen's going to end up losing the round, and that's exactly what happens. It might only be the 5th round, but so far the Soniqs have taken 4 of those 5 rounds, and they have definitively won the first half.
Yeah, and wow. Looks like we're getting a tactical timeout here from Oxygen. I believe it's a tactical timeout. It's definitely an Oxygen timeout, whatever's going on. What's just happened there is the same thing that's been happening throughout this half, frankly. Parker, Oxygen are slow. There's more to it, obviously, but just on the surface level, Oxygen have been giving us some excruciatingly slow attacks, even when they're not directly confronted by a roamer. That last round, they'll get piano control and office control real fast. Library was free. They were gifted that one. And yet they still have trouble with the time.
I don't know exactly what you do if you're Oxygen. I think their expression and their face says it all, as they are not particularly happy with that one. But you're going to come back to us, or we were told?
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm camera ready. But no, instead we're going to continue to look at the Oxygen folks. Obviously not very happy, and even though we did get a perfect freeze frame of them for but a couple seconds, I do think that composure and demeanor plays a big role as well. If you are mentally not in the game, it's hard to find your footing and get back in, and it's something that we talk about whenever a tactical timeout does arise. Is this a strategic timeout? Could it possibly be that after a couple rough losses in rounds 1 and 2 that the mental is just chalked, as the NA players say, Michael? We can only speculate, and in comments that would arise on Twitter and comments that would happen on social media after the fact, they can tell you, but we just speculate.
Yeah, I do think, Parker, that confidence and, self-investment is a major part in the success of a team. Like, you could set up a plan, but if you're not confident in it, it might not be successful. And I don't know what's going on right now in Oxygen's, field, because I'm not there. I'm not on comms with the players. I cannot say. But what I am seeing is slow attacks met with placid engagements from Oxygen. Just not the oomph that you need from a team to break the nut that is Sonic's defense. And if this ends up being a 5-1 because of that, this is an attacker-favored map. You're right. Well, after this one, it might not be. If this ends up, let's say this goes to overtime. Soniqs wins the first half 5-1. We go to OT. Then, yeah, the stats might sway to be defender-sided. But right now, it's at 48% defensive win rate, I want to say, in the NAL Stage 2. So there's 10 seconds to go. Pressure here on Oxygen. They need this last round for the first half.
A 5-1 is a slippery slope on any map. It doesn't matter if it's defender favored or not. 4-2, for those that watch, tends to be the most common scoreline for either a dominant team on a dominant half or a dominant team on a less than dominant half. If one team is performing better, anything more than a 4-2 is cause for celebration. We're not back in the old days where, it was the same 2 sites over and over and over again, and, the defenders would win almost every single time. There is going to be some breathers tossed in. I just turned 31 a couple days ago, so I can use that and sincerely mean it.
Yeah. I feel old too now, Parker. I'm coming up on 25. I'm catching up to you.
I don't think you can catch up. It's not like you have 2 birthdays a year.
I'm catching up.
In 10 years' time, I'll be 4 years older than you. I don't think it works that way. You can't have double birthdays.
Well, unfortunately for Oxygen, they can't have double time. And once again, they're having a very slow attack. 1 minute burnt so far. No entry into the building. And they do have some presence over by office, actually, so there is something done. There's something accomplished. And look at that. They're going to get the backstairs Goyo shield. That is significant. It's a lot of time that will be saved when they make the push down the hallway. But we've seen Oxygen in this exact position before, actually, Parker. Last time they attacked the bar, and it didn't work out well for them that time either.
Now, this stairs hold that Kansan is on right now is particularly pivotal, and of course the shield has been blown out in front of him, so some of his cover is gone. He'll continue to hang on to that handrail and watch the window to see if somebody vaults on, and he can swing up if needed. And there's a crossfire that's potentially established with Yeti here as well. You can see the Swiss cheese-like holes in the wall that will give Yeti a good vantage point as he catches 2 drones and then repositions over towards Chimney, as it's called, which is the top of Fireplace. All quiet right now on the western front. Grixer down below sees the garage door panel has opened up, Michael, and nobody has died yet, much to, I'm sure, great surprise. Vertical just walks in and gets a very free pick. Not going to grab a second. Yeti takes him down before Yeti is traded by Yaga, posted up himself by Fireplace. And he'll do some more damage. Now charging into Library, but it's a disappearing act as Kino falls, Rexon drops, and Foxay takes out Super. It's an absolute madhouse. A 2v2 with 40 seconds left. Might have been a slow starter, Michael, but it certainly hasn't been a slow mid-round at all. Laxing and Yaga for OXG as Rexon on 1 HP with Grixer at full is essentially where we stand in these final 30 seconds of the first half.
Now, that's a lot of time for Oxygen when we come to the final, or to the end, really. They've got a lot to work with here. Yaga will go down, though. Grixer trying to challenge for backstairs. Rexon's been playing such a pivotal role, and that's despite his sliver of HP. Laxon going for the swing, and he'll lose it! Oh my! Rexon is looking for those heads, and he's finding them. He really has been the hero. Both times the Soniqs went to bar, and that, Parker, that is a 5-1 half for the Soniqs.
I hate to be the person who calls it early, but a 5-1 first half for the Soniqs on an unfavorable side on a map that they haven't played so far this stage, after OXG burned their timeout to try and salvage the final round of the first half, now switching sides. I fear that might be the ball game for OXG, because the comeback potential for Oxygen at this point is excruciatingly low.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, to be fair to Oxygen, they are learning quickly. I mean, you could see it in their play. That last round, that was one of the faster, albeit still somewhat slow, one of the faster attacks we saw from Oxygen. I love that in the 2 versus 2, even though they didn't win it, there was 35 seconds left when that 2 versus 2 kind of initiated, and that's your end game for the round. So, good on Oxygen. They learned their lesson. It was a little bit late, of course, but they're adaptable. Going into defense now, I mean, I still am of the opinion that these teams are much closer than this scoreline is reflecting. 5-1 is not an adequate representation of Oxygen versus Soniqs, in my opinion. I mean, we've seen this before, Parker. Actually, in what match was it? Yeah, TSM versus DZ, I think, was the match that I would bring up as most like apparent to me as like a match you would expect to be a lot closer. 7-0 TSM. That kind of is what the vibe I'm getting right now. I know that Soniqs is the favorite team. I get that. Statistics represent that well. I just think this is a little bit closer in actuality. These rounds are close, that's for sure.
Some of them have been.
Yeah.
This is as close as England versus Denmark. Those of you that are following along with the Euro Cup right now.
I don't know. Is that football?
No, it's called cornhole. It's an American pastime.
Okay.
You have no idea if I'm kidding, and it's wonderful.
I'm pretty sure that's football or soccer or whatever you want to call it.
It is soccer in North America, football in every other sane country on the planet.
I usually just say football because more people understand what I mean.
More people globally.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you got to say it like this. You can go, football! That's the NFL.
And that's because then that's the American football. So if you scream it, football, then it's American football.
People understand. Oh, okay. Kansan woke up this morning. He started blasting. Super almost losing his life, but he's getting the diffuser down. Not for long. He stopped in his tracks by Kino, and then Rexon takes out Vertical. Kino then dies. Kansan is still there. OXG in troubling waters. The Soniqs in a 4v2 with half the round to go. Down goes Laxing and Foxay. Well, you're in a position where they're going to give you a mercy killing. Can you stop the diffuser? Wow, you can. 1 second left, and he's going to continue to patrol the billiards table, now head into bar stock, watch the area where the diffuser is down, and, well, it's in the middle of what we would refer to as the lion's den in the biz. Foxay still in this spot, continuing to work away with the Roni in hand, but there's 3 players from the Soniqs looking to end him. There's a bounty on that man's life, and the Soniqs came collecting. Match point for SQ as they're up 6-1 over Oxygen.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, the first half, I mean, Yeti's face says it all there. The first half did, in my opinion, reflect a closer match than what we, than what the scoreline was saying. That round, however, ended with still about half the round still left on the clock. And that reflects a absolutely dominant performance. So now that we've switched sides, Parker, that attacker favoredness that we have come to expect on Chalet is now represented adequately by the Soniqs. And, I mean, in a blink of an eye, Oxygen fell down. And it was just quick contact from Soniqs, too. That's the crazy thing. They weren't, they did a roam clear, yeah. But mostly it was just, hey, let's hit sight. And that just worked.
But that's what I mean, I don't want to be the guy who's like, I was right. But at the end of round 6, I was like, that's probably the ball game.
Yeah.
That's a debilitating loss. In terms of what's happening in the server, there's very little from Oxygen that's leading me to believe that they can keep pace with the aim, decision-making, and game sense that's being displayed by the Soniqs. But out of the server, and on that desk in Las Vegas where they're all playing, mentally, I see nothing that can even come close to matching where the Soniqs are right now. So when you add those together, it's so tough. And you know what? Honestly, a good round or two here from Oxygen could make all the difference.
They could come back.
But,
it's doable.
But that first round was, frankly, that is an embarrassing first round for Oxygen. They got ran over. Super was in the site within 40 seconds, almost got the diffuser down. And there was almost no bite back from OXG. And that's the problem.
Yeah. That's the weird thing, too, because there's no bite back when Soniqs was actually just straight up in Oxygen's jaws. All they need to do is clamp down. It's really strange. I think that's just, you could attribute that to, just losing your gunfights. We saw a lot of that.
It's like serving well-done steak at a senior's home. There ain't no biting happen there.
Yeah, that's kind of a good way to describe it. Yeah, I like that analogy. In this round, at least, it's a much slower round. We've got Soniqs with library control. They're droning out the rest of the top floor. This is your typical over vertical take. They're going to want to open up above. Let's see. We've got some vertical on the Soniqs. I got to imagine at least one of these operators is bringing breach shards, but I'm not sure. Yeah, there it is on Grixer. So as long as Grixer doesn't die, they'll be able to open up above just fine. They will need to deal with these roamers upstairs, though, who are entrenched with their Goyo shields and whatnot, trying to hold up the top floor.
I mean, everything that we see from Oxygen suggests that they're going to want to slow down the Soniqs, and after that last round, can you blame them, frankly? Nope. I mean, with how quickly they were able to come in and take control of that site. Now, obviously, a kitchen defense does not allow you as an attacking team to take up the same ground as effectively and as quickly. So there's more steps that you need to do. So far, Super's 2 steps have been to open up office above and then open up the wall into dining below. That puts Kino right in the crosshairs of the Soniqs when they go to push in, and all he has in his way is a single deployable shield. Now, he does that rotate. He's going to have to jiggle peek around this if he wants to take an engagement. That's a risky thing to do, especially when you got that SMG-11 in hand and couple it with how the Soniqs have been so good at hitting their shots. All that to say, there's 30 seconds left in this round. Laxing is going to be credited with that very first pick. Every single avalanche starts as just a single snowflake. Is this going to be the proverbial start of that avalanche for Oxygen? That's the final lion charge that gets burned, and Super will wait out the smoke before trudging in to get the diffuser down. Yeti will breathe in some of that toxic canister. He gets finished off. Foxay is there. They don't see Super planting. He might be able to get away with this one. Kansan is down, so it's Super in a 1v5. He's just going to need to persevere as best as he can. Looking for Foxay. Damage being done, but he has to watch from the left. A flawless round from Oxygen. A potential comeback, who knows, but still a strong round from OXG, well perfected on their defense, shutting down the Soniqs every step of the way.
That's nice stuff there. I like that from Oxygen. One thing I want to highlight about the pregame there, the planning. This is when you know there is serious thought being put into the gameplay that you're witnessing. That was a 3C4, 4 shield setup. 2 from the Goyo, and then you had 2 others. I love when I see stuff like that because you're really stacking the books when it comes to your utility as a defender, and you got all that to use. It worked out. It worked out great. There was shields that managed to persevere to hold dining. There were shields that persisted upstairs. They were just layers upon layers upon layers, almost like an onion for Oxygen's defense that round. Good stuff. The top floor clear also did not work out great for Soniqs. That must be noted. They didn't fully commit to it, frankly. They got control all the way up to piano and office, then didn't open above, and all committed fully to the main lobby, which didn't work great. They also lost one player upstairs, didn't re-engage that. It was also kind of slow compared to the first round, obviously. That's not a lot to work with on Sonic's side, so... No, a good round from Oxygen. The best round we've seen from Oxygen so far. Great stuff.
Dominating fashion. You know, hard to get better round than opening pick flawless.
Yep.
I mean, if only they had denied Super the diffuser being planted. Maybe.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, but to be fair, they did get in their stats. Somebody did get a disable for that. So.
That's true. That is very true. Well,
yeah.
We see some major change-ups here on both of these teams. The Flores and Yana coming in full force. Yaga rocking the Ella. We also see a Wamai coming out. We seldom see Wamai as he's banned quite frequently, and even when he's available, a lot of teams still will play other operators and just keep Jaeger in their back pocket, and that's where Vertical is going to sit on that Jaeger role. As that said, it's an upstairs defense. It's both bedroom and office. And I'll be interested to see exactly how they're going to play this one out, because 45 seconds in, and there's still some small soft destruction work being done by Oxygen, who are obviously not stoked with how their defense is at the moment. They're still tinkering.
Yeah, I think they just rotated a Solarium defense for a library defense, because you can see that shield got placed just now on Piano, and it gets destroyed by a Flores drone. That is a great opportunity seized by Kansan. There were multiple defenders in a position to shoot that Flores drone, and none of them did, because they're still doing their site setup, and they're still doing their site setup, I assume. I didn't see too much of what it was before this, but I assume because they were at first set up for Solarium defense.
Well, there's 3 different players in the lobby who take quite a bit of damage. Super and Kansan on the Sonic side, and Vertical taking his on OXG and playing off of that Piano area where the deployable shield was a lifeline for him, but no longer there, as you noted, taken out by the Flores drone earlier on. OXG were looking to defend Solarium, but instead, now they'll sit in that position and watch towards Office. It's not going to be a bedroom take from the Sonics. Instead, their sights are going to be very squarely set on Office. Already, the door's been opened up onto balcony. Some soft destruction being done. Foxay has to tread carefully from that position, but instead of treading carefully, he's going to take the fight right to them. Smoke going out. A huge 2-piece from Vertical. Yeti answers back, destroying Foxay, but Kino in on this one as well. It's a 2v4 now, but everything working out in favor of OXG. Kansan finds himself in a 1v4, but it very quickly becomes an OV4 as a 4K from Vertical gives OXG the round.
That man just got a 4K with a sliver of HP. A single bullet would have felled Vertical, but none was landed by the Sonics. So well played there to Vertical. Well played to Oxygen as well as a whole. When it came to blows, Oxygen was ready on those fights. This is a very different Chalet than what we are used to seeing in the NAL so far through this stage. And it's a very different everything, actually. I mean, Sonics are really hitting their stride overall, I'd say. Although they're struggling with some of these attacks. Oxygen are, you know, in a little bit of a struggle bus, which is not what we're used to seeing, especially based off of Stage 1. There's conversation about how long do we hold on to your performance in Stage 1? How long is that really relevant for? And I think Oxygen's a good, you know, case to use to examine that point. We're going to Bar now for Oxygen. This is the site that they lost, the only site they've lost so far. See if they can make it work. Second time around.
Well, this has been quite the comeback they've been able to stitch together on, as you said it, an uncharacteristically defender-sided Chalet in which the attackers have only won 2 of these 9 rounds. For different reasons, though, I want to say. The defense from the Soniqs was stifling in many ways, and OXG looked like they were caught flat-footed getting into the building more often than not. Oxygen is letting SQ into the building, but are simply making them beat themselves. In a lot of ways, it seems like the Soniqs are getting caught up in that mid-round portion, and it's been unfortunate because, while there's that brief frenzy at the end that we can catch so well, but actually seeing what is going on during the middle portion of the round, whether rotates are coming out from the Soniqs, is a question that we need to answer, and we just don't have any information on that the same way that we do when we saw, as you called out, Oxygen, instead of expecting to defend Solarium, instead turned their focus towards Office. So it's something definitely to keep an eye on now. As you pointed out, this is the only bomb site that OXG has not prevailed on thus far.
Yeah, not counting the basement, of course, which they haven't played, so technically it does factor in.
Yeah, I mean, they also haven't played on Consulate, so they haven't won any sites there either, Michael.
That's true, Parker. They haven't played Consulate today. Now, one of the things that we did mention it, but I think super impressive also that last round that Oxygen managed to switch their defense up. I mean, again, it's just an assumption that they did that because of how late they were doing, you know, all the rotation of the shields and stuff. But it makes sense, and I can't believe they got a win off of that, frankly. Soniqs could do with being just as fast as they were in that first round in the second half, and this round they're not going to. The action had already started on that round. Here we are still waiting for the first bullets to land on anybody.
I talked about how Oxygen was allowing the Soniqs into the building, and, well, maybe I was not correct for this round. Soniqs have changed things up yet again. They're going to bring the Lion out, Yeti onto the IQ. This is a lineup that we've seen before out of Soniqs, and the first Lion charge is going to go off. Yaga in this position. Sees the fire blow up in front of him. He can't really do too much. Vertical, the only one to take damage from that first Lion charge getting burned. But literally, his Vertical is now going to sit by that shield. That will give him some cover. Not for long, though. The crossfire from Yeti is good enough to take him out. Immediately, the next Lion charge will come out. Yaga will play bartender and see what exactly he can serve up to the members of the Soniqs who happen to cross his path. Laxing not too far off. They'll have to wait and watch the single doorway that leads into that main lobby. If anybody's on the flank, they'll be watched intently by Grixer, who's sitting there, and because of the numbers advantage for the Soniqs, Grixer can stay on permanent flank watch, setting up a scuffle on the site into a 4v4. Tino is on not necessarily a flank, but a different set of stairs, and he sees the Lion. Can't shrug off those bullets. He loses the fight. Kansan better in that regard, and the final Lion charge will find 2 targets as Kansan hopelessly sprays through the wall, trying to do what he can. Grixer taking some damage. Down goes Kansan to Fox. A super now damage to Yaga, but it's Yaga who drops. Fox A in back bar stock. He'll have to try and shut down a diffuser being planted by Super if he can get in. Laxing will need to do as much work as Fox A does as well. There's 15 seconds left. Laxing doesn't know that somebody's behind him. Super charges in, surrenders diffuser. Fox A in a pivotal spot. He's right now in a 1v3 with Yaga bleeding out in front of him. 5 seconds left. Diffuser going down. Nitro Cell ripped. It gets tossed out. And it doesn't connect, but it doesn't matter. The Soniqs somehow puzzlingly kill Yeti and then manage to clean up on Fox 2. It's a 7-3 scoreline, but SQ, despite those last 2 rounds, ends up eking it out and taking a win over OXG.
A little bit of battle there. And, I mean, a very dominant win there for the Soniqs. There were some very close rounds, though. That's worth noting. Oxygen put up a heck of a fight. Fox 8 with 12 kills to answer Rexon's own 12 kills. And, well, you wouldn't know it from looking at the scoreboard, but Soniqs were definitely the better team in the actual round count. That last round, I love the way that the Soniqs played that, but I also think that a lot of the onus falls on Oxygen's shoulders. For example, we had the Lion in Mudroom. I want to say that was Kansan. He could have died or been forced into a pick by just about anybody, actually. A lot of the anchors could have taken that fight. He's isolated. There's no refract potential there. There's no cutoff from the attackers. You know, like usually when you have those players in those isolated positions, somebody punishes. Not so for Oxygen. They sat and waited, and that was not the play.
There's obviously some significant work that OXG is going to need to do. The Soniqs have really shrank their map pool down to just Consulate, but they seem to be doing quite well on it, and now also on Chalet. For a team that was often criticized as only being good at Oregon and Clubhouse, being able to put up significant numbers on 2 other maps is obviously a major boon for SQ. But with that said, that's our very first matchup in the books. It looked like it was going to be a little bit more one-sided than the score ended up being, and a comeback from Oxygen just came a little bit too late. The Soniqs still ended up overpowering them, and with it, they pick up 3 big points, no overtime required. That's our first map, though, in the books, Michael. We've got an analyst desk and, of course, a break before we can get to our second matchup, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. What does it take to call next? Follow us for a deep dive into the Rainbow Six community, breaking down barriers, taking you behind the scenes, and showing what it means to level up.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the NAL, and with the replays brought to us by the wonderful people over at Predator. Wow, Soniqs put on one heck of a performance and dominated the first half, and ultimately won the game against Oxygen, a team that they had a lot to say about before the game started.
I don't want to get too premature on this, Valley, but I think Oxygen's chances of making it to the Mexico Major at this point may very well be shot. It's deja vu of their game against SSG in a lot of ways. We were going to try to give them credit for some things they did right in this game, but so few things did, and the Soniqs don't let them have any ground in this game at all.
I mean, Oxygen Esports, this is just not what we're used to seeing for them, right? I mean, stage one, there's this powerhouse. They're the best team in all of North America. They're topping out the league. And now stage two, they just look like a completely different squad. They're not themselves. They're not playing to their potential. And Soniqs really did so much better than them in this game. I mean, you got to hand it to them. They really played to the top of their ability. And yeah, this is the result, 7-3.
And talk about the results. So the guy that had the most to say definitely led by example. Rexon going 12-4. Outstanding performance from that man. But on the other end, Fox A led the way as well, 12-7. But like we say here, stats don't matter if you catch an L at the end of the day. But we actually have an interview with somebody pretty amazing. Production, when you can, let's throw Super from Soniqs on the screen. And yeah, I can't wait for that. Jesse,
yeah.
When it comes to this matchup in general, man, are you like Oh, there we go. Super. What's going on, man? How do you feel after? I know how you feel after that victory, but you know what, Super? I'm gonna have to keep it real with you. Dominating the first half against Oxygen, it was 5-1 at half. Rexon was 9-2. Grixer was 7-2. Was the game plan working out for you guys? What did you all want to really shut down against OXG?
To be honest, we don't really go into any match, at least in best of ones. I think for best of 3, if we were to qualify for a major or something, it'd be a little different. But we don't go into best of ones really worrying about the other team. We just try to play our game. And more often than not, it's working out. Okay. It's worked out for us. Obviously, I think against like Dark Zero, they did a bit of countering that we weren't handling that well. And I think that's why we lost that game. But in general, we're not going into a specific match like changing strats or anything. I think we have like a general idea about how they play. Like OXG, for instance, they don't drone in their entries. You can take a lot of entry fights with them because they're always solo droning. They play very passive. They give you a lot of the map, stuff like that. But that's not like you're not changing your strats. It's just something that you know.
You're right. This team, they've been criticized attack and also defensively whenever it comes to their anchor and roam play, right? But looking at your team as a whole, we saw the content piece coming in from both teams. And Richie Rexon, he's a quiet guy, but you guys had a lot to say, especially him when he talked about the rivalry or, you know, what could be a serious rivalry between the two teams. What's going on behind the scenes?
To be honest, I think just the people on our team don't like Fox. I don't think we have a problem with anybody else on their team. I think every one of us just doesn't really like Fox. He said some things that were out of line the last time we played them, and they've yet to beat us. So, you know, he can keep talking and keep losing.
Because the wins are what matters, right? Super much love, man. The very last question. Next play day, July 14th, they're going against Mirage. Good team. Benji's popping off. Course is spectacular so far. What should we expect in that matchup? A big Soniqs win, or, you know, is it going to be a close one?
I mean, I don't know how to respond to that question. It's not like I'm saying, yeah, I think we're going to get 7-0'd, you know, and then we'll just have a rough day. But no, I think Mirage is playing really well. You know, I think they're surpassing people's expectations. So with Houghton, Quartz has performed admirably. And if you look at their stats, it's not even like anybody on their team's really a standout performer. It's kind of just like they all do their job really well. They have really good like that teamwork aspect that can elevate good players to great players, average players to good players, etc. So, you know, I think it'll be a good match. They're playing really well. We'll see how their match against Exit goes today. Unfortunately for our place in the standings, I don't think Exit have much of a chance, but you know, I've been shocked before. So we'll see them next week. I'm sure it'll be a good game.
Well said. Super, it was a blast hanging out with you 4th of July. We're at the DZ house. It was great talking to the team as well. Anything you want to say to the fans out there? You know, thank them for rooting for you guys, or just anything to look forward to in the future?
Yeah, thanks for all the fan support for myself and for the team personally. Thanks to the haters as well. That fuels us. Pretty sure everybody picked us to lose somehow to that team. Don't know how that happens. But yeah, I mean, thanks. Hope my head wasn't blinding anybody under these lights too much, and I'll see you next week.
Super, I want to kiss you on your big old shiny head, man. You take it easy. You have a good rest of your day, all right?
See ya.
All right. Just for the record, all of us here picked the Soniqs to win that game. We all had the right idea. We all had it down. Yes. So yeah.
That's true. The CGG Twitter predictions did go almost entirely in favor of Auction, so maybe that's what he's going about.
Makes sense.
There was a lot of split public opinion, so I get where he's coming from.
so Jesse, let's talk about what really went down this game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 5-1 at half. It didn't look competitive at all. What was happening with Soniqs' defense and the way they were able to just smother everything Oxygen threw at them?
Yeah, I mean, it really felt like Auction Esports, like the caster said it time and time again, the time was terrible. I mean, it was super low time every single round. Auction were trying to get in and they were trying to get make something happen, but it was super low time. But I don't think inherently a low time round is a problem. I think it comes to be a problem when you don't have like a great execute to follow it up. And it felt like for me, Oxygen never really had that ability to close down those rounds because they didn't have the intel for it. Now, they always had drones up, but I don't know if those drones just weren't in the right spots or if there weren't other people watching those drones. It did feel like they always had great zero cams up from Laxing, and there was always people watching those zero cams. But as far as like actual intel on the site, they never really seemed to know where the Soniqs players were at. So when you got down to those low time moments, it really did feel like the Soniqs were just outplaying Auction Esports. They had the intel advantage. They had, I would say, better gunners in that game, and ultimately there just didn't seem to be any hope at all in that first half for Oxygen to get more than one round.
Better gunners ain't even a word, man. Rex and Grixer combined 16-4 by the time they switched over to attack. Ouch. But speaking of time, and you said a lot of it, right? Jacob, you said that it looked like Soniqs did a really good job at playing for time, stalling out whatever Oxygen threw at them and made them force their hand a lot.
Yeah, it does tie more back into Jesse's point about the way that OXG were taking a lot of their attacks very slowly. I think Kix touched on it to a certain extent, where it seemed like when OXG were getting more aggressive on their roam clear, they had like more potential for success. I think the one time they actually had a round fall in their favor wasn't even because there were rooms that SQ were surrendering. It came from Vertical just being vertical and creating space. But there were also times where the Soniqs decided to pick, I wouldn't even necessarily call it unconventional, but they just posted people upstairs in relatively default positions, had a really good understanding of when to fall back. By that point, like, Oxygen didn't have a way to claim all of the remaining space that SQ had just forfeited and then use it to their advantage. Sometimes SQ even brought a Rook, which I kind of thought was interesting. Just it's not even like your standard, your Mozzie or your Mute attempting to deny intel. It's just stalling for time because of the nature of Rook. He's got a really good gun and he'll hold long angles against you all day, and there are plenty of those angles that can be opened up, especially on the top floors for Chalet. So overall, I thought it was the combined effort of OXG not wanting to get very aggressive and the Soniqs just kind of doing what they do best and having a really good understanding of how to play Chalet overall.
Well said. Now, we had a community poll, and if you guys follow us on social media, you guys will know this as well. Now, the question is, between these two entries, which one will get the most opening kills for their team? This is a good one. Vertical and also Rex and Jesse.
Ooh.
Without mentioning popularity, who would you think would take the battle?
Vertical actually did quite a bit better in opening picks this game than Rexen did. Vertical was, I think, 3 and 3, I believe. 3 and 3. Rexen was like 1 and 2 or something. So I'm gonna go for Vertical. Why not? He's the one that performed better, and maybe the people would have recognized that ahead of time.
Right. Jacob, even with popularity in mind, how are you feeling about this?
I'll take Rexen because I think he's had a little bit more of a stable stage 2. By comparison, Vertical's kind of had a bit of a falling off since around the SI days. So I think more people will have Rexen fresh in their minds.
All right, so the winner actually is 52% went for that guy, Rexen. The one that popped off,
close.
the one that led his team 12-4 ultimately here on Chalet. And congratulations to the Soniqs for pulling out a very impressive win, especially a decisive one over Oxygen. But coming up next, we actually have a really good matchup as well. It's going to be Xset versus Mirage. I'm going to be honest. I want to see Xset have that turnaround. Jesse, you're smiling. I'm an optimist. Okay, sometimes, right? But coming up next, before we jump into that matchup, we actually caught up with Mirage. And when it comes to being successful with your team, the vibe's got to be high, and they have a lot to say about it.